Hi, I'm Melissa Bill, and welcome to the Business Roundup, where we catch up with the movers and shakers in the business world. Today, joining me is Dutch Mendenhall. He is a visionary, a best-selling author, and the founder of Omnico Golf. Thank you for joining me today.
Happy to be here, Melissa. It's good to see you again.
Now, I know we talked before, and a lot has happened. We had a new president elected. We have the tariffs, we have interest rates, we have all these things happening. And it's definitely changing the business landscape. And we had kind of talked a little bit about, entrepreneurship and business back then. What are some of the things that you've been up to lately? Because I know you just were talking about you just started Omnico Golf, correct?
Yeah, and so we've owned our golf courses for a while now, and so now we decided to start Omnico Golf. And what Omnico Golf is the democratization of the golf industry, where 10, 20, 30 years ago, you might not have been allowed to join the country club. You might not have been allowed to golf. My business partner, Amy, is always joking about ladies being left out, guys only, right, is what golf stands for. And so, for me, my business partner and I were both in, mixed race marriages, and our kids wouldn't have been allowed on the courses. And so, what I hate is unequal treatment, is unfair treatment, right? I believe that each and every one of us earn our way in America. And so at Omnico Golf, not only can you golf at our courses, not only can you join our country clubs, but all Americans can now be an owner. And you can take a piece of the golf course ownership to yourself. And so I think through Omnico, we can have more Americans owning golf courses than we've ever had before in the history of our country. And we can kind of change the landscape. Whereas if you still go to a Masters tournament, you still go to, any one of the PGA tournaments, and you look left, you look right, you're going to see a sea of non-diversity, right? And I think, but people love to golf, and golf is a diverse sport in the sense of who likes to play the sport. And so for me, we can help with that diversity. We can help with the economic discrimination, the economic inequality in America, because for so long, only the accredited, only the rich, only the wealthy could own a part of a golf course. Only the rich, only the wealthy could own a part of the New York Yankees, right? And crowdfunding in America today, you can own more, right? And you can be an owner, and you can be a fractionalized owner. It's amazing. I love the shift and change in that part of American economic.
Now, do you think since President Trump has taken office, do you think that that's opened a way for this to flourish more, or do you think it's the same, or what is your thoughts on that?
I mean, here's the thing. With Trump, we're in a lot of chaos, right? And that's what he's always done. He's created chaos in business situations, and then he comes out of it a bright shining star, right? And that's been his history. And I think, he's doing things right now that I feel like in his world, their perspective is to lay a foundation for economic strength and economic certainty in the future, right? And so though it might not be pleasant for all Americans, or it might not be pleasant for all business owners, there's foundational steps being laid right now for it. Now, what's opened up is the SEC's ability for change, right, and for shift, and the sternness that they had in maybe crypto, right, has changed and shifted. I think it opens up crowdfunding in new ways. Congress has looked at legislation for passing less stringent rules between accredited and non-accredited, which I think is unconstitutional anyway. So I don't even think we should be talking about it. But it is a fact of rule in America.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know the tariffs are the same thing. Some people have, they're super against it, that, they're upset about it. But in some ways, too, that's trying to create that shift, like we were talking about, to kind of bring more of the business in the United States, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, the whole goal of the tariffs is to build American business, right? To make American companies, stay in America, to get American companies to build up, to build, right, American businesses, American manufacturing, American technology, American AI, right? These are all things that we're focused on rebuilding and lifting back up, right? We've sat on a bubble, right, a cloud for the last, 18 years, right? And since 2008, so 17 years, bad math. So 17 years. And we can't continue to sit on that cloud without making change. We can't continue to sit on a deficit that, takes us, into the trillions. We have to make some shifts. We have to do these things a little bit different. And that those shifts are not going to be pleasant, but the choice is unpleasantness now or complete catastrophic failure later. And that's the difference between A and B, right? We've been on a fiat currency, and we have one of the longest running fiat currencies in the history of the world. Well, what does that mean? It's not backed by anything, right? It's not backed by gold. People think American dollar is backed by gold. It's not, right? And so we have to change how our economic situation is, right? American business, well, we brought in and bought and purchased the cheapest, best goods from around the world, which is awesome. But if we're not purchasing American goods, what are we really producing? What are we really making? Because China's coming fast. India's coming fast. Those two countries have 3 billion people out of the 8+ billion that are here in the world. Just two countries, right? America's, one of the largest populations, one of the largest companies in the world, but we're 1/5 the size of those countries. And so we've got to do things right to keep our economic security, to keep our economic strength. Yeah, we have military supremacy throughout the world, but economically, we're going to have to make some tough decisions if we're going to continue to thrive as a country.
And move forward.
Yeah.
And with entrepreneur, I know before, I think we were talking about it, real estate was an investment that you were saying was, a safer bet. What about now? What are some of the things, like we're talking about side hustles or entrepreneurship? What are some of the things that people could be looking into that would be like a good avenue, in addition to your job or your regular work?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is in today's world, there's a lot of opportunity that is out there. It's just whether you're going to grab onto it or not, right? The entertainment economies are coming. And so what I mean by entertainment economies is like so much business is going into the virtual world. So much business is going into AI. The jobs are going to be being outsourced left and right. But inflation is happening so fast. There's an abundance of money that's out there. It's whether you can grab part of that. And so, working in any type of entertainment industry is huge. So like golf courses for us is one of the entertainment industries. I think when people think entertainment, they're thinking like rock concerts or they're thinking something like that. But anything that is recreational, right, is entertainment. Recreational economies, is huge right now. I love real estate, right? One of the reasons I love golf courses is because we can have a business that's backed by real estate. And at the end of the day, real estate, people are always going to need a place to eat. They're always going to need food, right? They're always going to need a place to sleep. These are things that, is always going to be backed by real estate. It's always going to have a need.
So it's like something tangible there,
Yeah,
just
it's
like.
something real. It's not mythological, right? It's not out there. And granted, if you balance everything, right, you can have your high risk stuff. You can have your real estate that's backed by income, right? You can balance A, B, C, D all the time.
And we were talking about the importance of a side hustle. I do think that that is something that more people need to do, especially if like you're middle America. I mean, having that side hustle and trying to like kind of keep growing and find these other ways to kind of get ahead.
Yeah, you have to start now, right? Right now. That's the thing is, and you might not have all the solutions today, right? If I say start now, I don't mean you have to go buy a franchise tomorrow. But at the same time, you need to start your research. You need to start your study, right? My book, Money Shackles, one of the first things we talk about is research. Do your homework, learn and understand and know an industry, right? If you've worked in HR your whole life, you can't suddenly go and be a candle maker, right? It takes time to research these things, to start side hustles, to start business. The thing is, a lot of people could have write-offs from their taxes and utilize that money for starting a business. And that's the part a lot of people don't realize. You can either pay Uncle Sam or you can pay yourself. You can pay Uncle Sam or you can use the money to start a business. And if you start today, what happens in 2, 3, 4 years from now from the compound effect can be huge difference in your life.
And now your book, does it go over some of those strategies?
Mhm. Yeah, Money Shackles dives deep into entrepreneurship, dives deep into money languages, dives deep into balancing out your investments. It's interesting because the crowdfunding industry is a great place for all entrepreneurs, right, to be able to bring in money, to be able to raise capital. Like you're a Floridian, right, Melissa? And if I came up with a new homeowners insurance where we could all pay less in homeowners insurance tomorrow, would you put $100 or $1,000 to help that company or that business start?
Yeah, I'd be more prone to. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And if you could get a return on it, right? Or maybe you could get a 10x or a 100x return someday on it. I mean, that would be amazing, right? Same with health insurance, right? There's so many things that are out there, but think of what's really fun too. People love fascination economies. They love entertainment economies, right? And so there's so many different things out there from crowdfunding. And so, Money Shackles dives deep into that topic, but also how do you find crowd companies to invest into? How do you get a piece of ownership in that, right? Because the only way you can get a 100x or a 1,000x return is investing in a startup company or a startup business, right? And you can't do that, by investing in the S&P 500. It's not likely to give you 1,000 or 10,000x return. But if you invest in a startup, a small company, and you invest a small amount of money, your return could be exponential. And you might have to do that 10 times to get one of the huge returns. And you might fail 7 out of 10, and 2 might pay something, and the 1 might be your home run. But that's the alternative investment industry. That's what, angel investors do. That's what, they take a whole lot of small pieces of a whole lot of companies.
And I read that too somewhere. It was funny. It was actually for like a person, bringing up younger like entrepreneurs. If you don't, you're going to fail. But if you don't put yourself out there, you're not going to make it. Like you have to fail in the process. Would you like agree with that?
Oh
Sometimes you're going
yeah,
to.
I mean you have to restart many times, and it sucks when you have to restart. I've had to do it more than once. I remember when back in 2010, it was the first time I think my business is, I was really starting to take off, and I think there's 150,000 a month was coming into my business, right? And I'm like, man, this is amazing. Let's see, I'm 45, so I was just maybe 29 or 30 years old, and I was flourishing, and I'm like, gosh, this is so incredible. And then boom, it's like we hit a brick wall. The client stopped paying us. And then we had all these employees and we had to keep paying the employees, but then the client wasn't paying us. And so it was this give and take, like, well, is the client not going to pay us? We need to let go of the employees. But if he then pays us and we don't pay the employees, and then I don't have the employees and he's paid us, now I can't service him. Now I'm in this back and forth scenario, and I'm just like pulling my hair out. And come January 1st of 2011, I'm like, am I going to have to borrow money to pay my bills January 1st? And I didn't end up having to borrow money January 1st to do that. But like my wife and I literally sat down and made a list of people we may, go to borrow money to pay bills. And that's mind blowing, thinking we were making that kind of money, as a business, not just us personally, but as a business, we were making that kind of money. But that's how fast, in entrepreneurship, it can change, right? That's why with starting the side hustle, and start building your foundational steps, start building pieces of the pie piece by piece is so critical, because then time is on your side, right? If you just quit and run away from your job today and you want to go start a business, time may or may not be on your side. But if you're well capitalized, time is more likely to be on your side, right? And so in starting a business, you want to be able to raise capital, you want to be able to bring in money. And frankly, it's not the hardest thing in the world to do, because there's 350 million Americans, and everyone has a fascination. Everyone's into every topic, everyone's into every subject. And it might be 1% of America's, into, I don't know, what's the new sport with the little rackets?
Oh my goodness, I know what you're talking about.
Not tennis. It's, what's wrong with me? I can't think of it right now.
It's
It's
not
on ES,
racquetball. It's called something else. Could not not cricket. Wait, hold on.
it's on, I'll think of it in a second, but it's on ESPN already and everything, right? But it's like 20 million Americans are into this, sport, and playing it on a daily basis. And now they have national tournaments and they have all these different things, right? You could start your own team, right? And you could go crowdfund it, or you could go buy a team and crowdfund it, right? There's so many different things you can do with crowdfunding. It's pretty amazing if you want to start a business and grow it. And the only way to start it is to start it.
And so, do you think that U.S. small businesses like these startups are going to like start to like pick up in the next like year or so? Have
I
you
think
seen?
I think the SBA applications will go up. I think business startups in America will grow very fast. I think you're going to see a race. There's going to be an abundance of money that goes to businesses and startup companies. I think that's, the future of America is small business production, is the entertainment industry, the recreation industry. I think that's a big part of the future. AI is going to be there, but who's going to have AI? Select companies that are doing really well,
That can afford it and
that can
and
afford it.
implement.
Yeah.
And then you got to train the people to use it. That's
Yeah.
the other side of it.
Well, I'm just looking at, so my kids have been homeschooled, and I'm looking at schools right now for my kids. And one of the questions I'm asking, principals, I'm saying like, well, what's your AI curriculum? What's your future here for these kids? And they're all looking at me like, I don't even, did you say AI?
Oh
Do you
no.
know? And they're like, do you know? I was like, do you know what AI is? And they, a lot of them really don't understand it. And that's the future. Stuff's happening so fast right now. It's mind blowing how quickly America is changing before our very eyes. And if people aren't paying attention, they're not going to realize how fast this shift is. This will be the fastest shift in how life is lived, that we've seen since the invention of the computer.
Right. I know they were even saying since like the Industrial Revolution, like having that, it's going to change things drastically. And I know you were recently in it's a TV show. Is it
Yep.
called Going Public?
Yeah, it's going public. I think it's 36 million views on our episode. Me and I'm there with CC Sabathia on our own episode, and just some really other incredible, individuals that are a part of it. Josh Snow and just some other individuals that are super powerful. But it's about founders, and it's the story of three different founders, and we each start our own companies, each starting our own businesses. One is Nutcase, which is an incredible alternative to chocolate milk, and they have just signed a big distribution deal, right? The other one's Jesse Tinsley and Recruiter.com. He's making big plays in this world, buying big domains. He's part of the rumors about buying TikTok, right? And so it's a great show. And we do all kinds of fun, wild stuff to throw us out of our comfort zone. They kind of shock us and surprise us, and it's a lot of fun. And I grew up as a baseball player, and was a failed baseball athlete and was a baseball coach, and so I got a chance to go on the episode with CC Sabathia, meet for me, which is a dream to meet a Hall of Famer, but then I got to hit off him in the episode. So we'll see how that goes at 45. I get to hit off a Hall of Fame pitcher, so it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Definitely. I used to be, yeah, I was into like the Red Sox for a little while. So
Did you see the new series that came out with the docu-series? It's
no, I didn't.
it's so good. So I just watched like in the last week I watched the first episode, and I said I'm gonna stop watching this docu-series because I'm gonna make my two sons who play baseball, they're 8 and 9, I'm gonna make them watch this with me. That's how good it is. And they'll watch it because it's that good.
What is it about? Is it about like that
It's just
time?
inside the Red Sox. It's a series inside the Red Sox. Yeah. Just
Okay.
their locker room, their player stories. Right? Baseball has always been about the story of the athletes, right? If you're an athlete, it's the story of failure, camaraderie, recover, reset, get back up again. It's an enduring, longest sport, season in the world, and it's one of the hardest sports ever. And it's just such, it's an American, right? It's America, right? If I around here somewhere, I have a big old picture of the Field of Dreams. It is it is a sport of America, and so for me, the Red Sox journey was good because it shows my kids there's a lot of different ways to approach it. Whether you're the guy who paints his nails or the guy who's intense with his workouts and the family man with the baby, right? It has a lot of the stories and some of the journey, so it's pretty cool.
Oh, I'm gonna check that out,
Yeah.
definitely. And now for people who want to see going public or also get more information on you and what's going on, Omni Golf, what would be the best places for them to go?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different websites people can go check us out. I mean, obviously we're pretty widespread in the internet. So you have moneyshackles.com. If you wanted to pick up the Money Shackles book, you can go to dutchmendenhall.com to get a deeper, relationship with me and my tribe. Or you can go to omnicogolf.com. We're not currently taking any investments into Omnico Golf. We'll go live sometime in June, but you can get on the waiting list. We'll max out and cap, the cap raise on that. It'll be crazy fast. 36 million views on the second episode alone. That doesn't include the first and third episode. So even the fourth. So it's pretty. The show is, from my understanding, and forgive me if I say this wrong, I think it's the largest watched business show in the history of America. And I feel like it's the best, most engaged show in X's history. It's on X. So it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I did get a chance to watch a little bit of it, but I want to see the whole segment. So I'm gonna look that up. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Well, glad to see you in Florida and glad to see you being nationwide. You deserve it, Melissa. So it's good to see your success and be a part of this journey with you.
Hi, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Business Roundup. If you haven't already, please subscribe or follow us on Instagram or YouTube. Also, feel free to leave comments below on topics you'd like us to cover. Until next time, I'm Melissa Bill.